Well, hello. Hola, mi amor.
Hola, Leonita.
Today is podcast 126, and we are going to tell you all about which has become one of our favourite Spanish cities, and that is Granada. Yes,
Sí.
we went here in 2016 for the first time, and we were so happy to be going back. And I'm so glad we did. We just loved it. We want to tell you all about it. So, Granada. Tell me where it is and a bit about it, darling.
Okay, it's got a population of 233,680. It's at an elevation of 738 metres. Granada is a city in southern Spain's Andalusian region in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's known for grand examples of medieval architecture dating to the Moorish occupation, especially Alhambra, and of course the fabulous, delicious tapas. Do you want to tell us what tapas is about now?
So tapas is like what you get. It's a little bit of food when you buy a drink, and Granada is well known for having the best tapas in all of Spain.
Correct.
Right? Free tapas. I
Free
might add.
tapas, yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that we noticed is that every place we went to, the free tapas was there.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to ask for it; that just appeared.
And they're quite substantial in comparison to other places. So they originated. Tapa means cover. So they originated, and we learnt this quite a few years ago, when kings were travelling across Spain on their horses. They'd stop and have a drink, and they'd get dust in the drinks, and there'd be insects flying around because the horse crap. They'd bring them some food on a plate, and they'd sit the plate on top of the glass.
Correct.
And so a cover. So that's just a tradition that is stuck around. So yeah. So we definitely enjoyed that, but we'll tell you a bit more about our tapa experience later.
Grenada is only 1 hour by car from the Mediterranean coast, the Costa Tropical, and nearby is the Sierra Nevada station where the Alpine World Ski Championships were held in 1996.
So it's still an active ski field.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, basically, meaning snow-covered mountains, the highest point of continental Spain. Hassan at 3,479 metres or 11,414 feet above sea level. Parts of the range have been included in the Sierra Nevada National Park and has also been declared a biosphere reserve.
So when you think about that, Granada is an hour from the coast, where we are, so beautiful sunny coast, and right there in the Sierra Nevada. So it's beautiful, the mountains that you drive through, and you can actually see the mountains from the coast looking back towards Granada, and it's got a huge amount of ski run.
The Sierra Nevada runs 400 miles or 640 kilometres north-south, and its width ranges from 50 to 80 miles or 80 kilometres to 130 across east-west. The Sierra Nevada mountain range boasts some of the best rock climbing, clear alpine lakes, which we saw on our way, and an epic ski terrain in the world. The Sierra Nevada Ski Resort boasts over 110 kilometres and 68 miles of skiable slopes, encompassing 131 runs. The resort also features 23 lifts, including chair lifts, ski lifts, and conveyor belts.
So hopefully we can do a podcast about the Sierra Nevada one time, because I've always wanted to go skiing there. So that's where Granada is located. And you mentioned tapas and also Alhambra. That's what I think Granada is most known for, is the fort, the palace of Alhambra. So we're going to do a whole podcast on that, because we were there for the day and there's so much to tell you about that. But so people who have maybe never heard of it, which is, incredible to think, but just a little bit
we were back in 2016.
This is one of them. I think this is the most stunning spot in Spain. It's a massive, big Moorish castle, fortress, garden, sultans' palaces. It is stunning, isn't it? And it started being built in the 1200s.
1238.
Yep.
And it was finished in 1358.
And luckily, when the Christians conquered the Moors, they didn't completely destroy the Alhambra. They did a lot of that in the day. They got rid of a lot of the Moorish stuff. But this the Nazrid Palace inside it, there's just nothing more stunningly architecturally beautiful than that. Anyway, so I'll put some pictures of all these things we're talking about on the blog post for episode 126, but we will, as I said, we will do a whole thing on the Alhambra on its own. So we're in Granada for 3 nights. We've arrived. How do we get there?
Yeah, well, we caught the bus from where we're staying at the moment, Nerja, to Granada, and it took us about 2.5 hours.
There's a lot of stops along the way. We said it's only an hour, but went in and out these beautiful little coastal places,
which was good because we went to, we heard of La Herradura quite often, and it was good to have a look there. We'd been to Almaneka before, so that's the 2 coastal towns that you would go through, and then obviously you turn off to go towards the.
And it's all uphill from there.
Yeah, towards the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Nice, comfy bus though. It was a great trip.
Yeah, it was great, and seriously, the scenery, especially when you get into the Sierra Nevada area,
the lakes and
just
the mountains. It's beautiful.
It's unbelievable. It's really nice.
You get to the bus stop, and we were told we could have caught a bus. There's line 33, I think it is. But we decided to grab a taxi, even though it was said it was going to be 20 minutes. How much did that taxi cost us?
€5.95. Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. Yeah. There's places in the world that, taxi drivers try and rip you off, but Spain is not one of them. And so dropped us right at our hotel, which is the Hotel Inglaterra. Yeah.
Correct.
It was a great spot, wasn't it?
Yeah. But just to go back a step, Granada does have an international airport, but it's mainly domestic, and the international flights are seasonal, are generally from places like Rome and Paris. There is a high-speed train from Madrid, and that takes about 3.25 hours. And from what I saw, it's about 22 euros.
It's easy to get to.
Yeah, as Lan said about our accommodation, look, $125 Australian, and
per night,
and we couldn't have picked a better location.
Yeah,
seriously, it was so good.
But just so you know, I did pick the location.
Yes, and I did say to you, Lan, you did nail it this particular time.
I did nail it. I might put a link to that in the show notes. So beachtravelwine.com, episode 126, because it's cheap. The room was big. They have breakfast for €8. It's only continental with the other bits and pieces, but it had everything we needed. The bed was big and comfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, basically, and this is off the hotel website, 5 minutes by car from Alhambra, 200 metres from the cathedral and the Royal Chapel, which we'll talk to you a little bit later about, 500 metres from Plaza Nueva, and right next door to the Bodega La Mancha, and that place is unbelievable, which is
a really famous tapas bar.
Yeah, and incredible.
I've got some beautiful photos of that on the website as well.
Okay. Yeah. Less than 200 metres to the beginning of the Albaicín precinct. Look, the rooms were big, they were clean, the staff were friendly and efficient, air-conditioned, free Wi-Fi. As Lan said, €8 for a continental breakfast. Seriously, fabulous.
But there's lots of accommodation options all over Granada. Yeah. So let's get on to the good stuff. We've got to our hotel. It's kind of getting a bit later in the afternoon, so we have a little bit of a wander around, don't we? So we head out the door, and basically you turn right, and you're right in the Albaicín and tapas bars there. So there's one called La Riviera, I think, and we're just like, well, we'll just sit down here. And the tapas was amazing, wasn't it?
You had
pork, I think, a pork stewy thing or something. I don't know. Anyway, but you don't order it; they just bring it.
Yeah. But it's sizable.
Yeah,
it's great. And I think you had Spanish omelette.
Yeah.
Too. So
anyway, it was great, and we wandered then. Like the first thing we did, the accommodation gave us a really good map. Here's the thing. We'll talk about it a bit more, but I didn't really understand the layout of Granada. And it's really in 3 areas. There's the Albaicín, which is like the old town part with all the little cobblestone streets, and it's on a hill.
Yeah, that's the Moors area, Muslim area.
And then there's the old town of El Centro.
Yeah.
There's 2 main streets. There's the Gran Via, and then there's the Catolica, Calais, which is the Catholic street. And they sort of join, and where they join is a statue, where there is Queen Isabella and Christopher Columbus. Yes. And so there's the Albaicín, the Old Town, and the Jewish Quarter, and they all basically emanate from that central area there. That
Yeah,
statue.
and basically it's all walking distance.
So walkable. So we headed up. The guy, reception guys, told us that one of the most famous things in the Albacete is the Mirador de San Nicolas.
Correct.
It was up and up and up, and the streets are the original stones, and they're a little bit wider, some of them, than what they used to be, which will tell you why that is in a little while. And we just kept going and following our nose, and
well, so you just sort of head up,
well,
and everybody's going the same way.
Yeah,
basically.
you're zigzagging though.
But the first thing you hit is that little bazaar area, and they're selling all sorts of Granada souvenirs. The smell in that street is
they've got the spices, and they've got little tea houses, all that sort of stuff, lots of little Turkish type delights and Moorish food.
Yeah, because obviously there's no alcohol in those.
So that was pretty. So that was great. Yeah.
So then we walked into, and we saw what we thought was a little church, but as it turned out, it was a chapel, and that was. And we walked in and to see what was going on, and I said to Leanne, we could see some nuns towards the front, and they were praying. And I said to Leanne, they're probably it sounds like they might be doing the rosary. They'll be there for hours.
And I didn't take any photos because it's disrespectful.
Yeah, but the nuns were basically covered from head to foot. You couldn't see their faces.
They're in white.
White looked like linen.
Yes.
Anyway, we found out later that on our walking tour that particular convent was established by Isabella. And
it's a non-speaking, except for the praying.
Yeah, well, it's non-speaking. Yeah, they don't speak to each other. They pray. They're from Sinclair Convent. They don't speak, but what they do,
and they don't go out. The only time they do is from the convent. They cross the road into the chapel and completely covered.
Yeah, and their job is a life of prayer, and that means that.
Well, they're not
24 hours a day.
The statue of Christ alone.
That's right. So for 24 hours, there's always some nuns there praying. So then we keep on going up, and as Leanne said, it's quite if you.
We were following a school group anyway, so they got ahead of us a fair bit, but you could hear them up ahead. You can't see them. Zigzag, 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 and then all of a sudden you just come out onto this viewing sort of
platform.
Plaza. Full of people, not too bad, but there's a few groups there, and eventually by the time we sort of went over to the edge to have a look, weren't that many people there. There's someone playing the guitar in the background, but what you see is the most stunning view. It's the postcard of Granada. You're looking right across down a valley up the other side, and there is Alhambra from one end to the other, and this is huge. And there's the mountains behind, the beautiful
Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, right. The dark green mountains, and then the beautiful forest trees, and these Alhambra means the red one, doesn't it? And it sort of glows golden red, and that's one of the reasons they say it's called Alhambra. But the other one was it was built by
Muhammad I, and he was a redhead.
Redhead. So that's the other.
Well, as they say, they call him a ginger.
Ginger, they did. So that just blew us away. This is our first day. We've had free tapas. We've arrived. It's been cheap, and we've walked up this hill to this stunning view. There will be nothing that will amaze you like walking out and seeing that view for the first time. It's just gorgeous. So. Yeah, that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. And then at the top of where the Mirador, which is basically Spanish for lookout, you've got the
there's a plaza there.
There's a plaza there.
Plaza de San Nicolas.
Yep. And the
bars and restaurants.
Yeah, you've got bars and restaurants, and you've also got the mosque.
Yeah, it's a new mosque though.
Yeah, it's a new mosque, and there's also obviously a church up the top there at St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
But look, I was really surprised at the fact that there was tapas bars up there.
Yeah. Of course there were. The people used to live there. Like there's houses up there.
I just.
It's not just a lookout. It's like part of the town.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And then one of the joys of leaving there and then going somewhere else to to go and have another tapa. Is just wandering down around those streets, and just the beautiful views of the Alhambra, like that you go around one corner and there's a white building with the flowers out the front, and then next to that is like one of the towers of Alhambra you can see through the gap. It's really, really stunning. But we did have a big day the next day, so we headed home at a reasonable hour. We did walk past Bodegas La Mancha, though. When we walked past it, we didn't know what it was, but you could see the timber work around the doors and the windows and the barrels out the front with the ornate chairs, and there were people all around it gathering around the barrels outside and the bar inside. There were people standing there, and they had Hermon hanging, and they got big barrels of, I don't know, vermouth, I guess, inside, and there's 4 or 5 guys in their white shirts calling out orders in rapid Spanish, and people are just mingling everywhere. It was incredible. It was just like you would think a Spanish bar would be, and we're just like, all right, we're too tired tonight, but we were coming back here. Yeah. We certainly did a bit of a circumnavigation of our area and the lookout and that sort of stuff on our first afternoon. We finished at an Irish bar just for a last drink of the night.
Oh, yeah. Hannigan's and Sons, they had a full of English people, and they had a quiz night on, which was quite funny.
But the wine wasn't the best, so
No,
maybe I think we were a bit tired and emotional, so we decided to call it a night. The next day, we did spend all day at Alhambra, and we were up early, and we'll tell you all about that, as I said. But
we did make an executive's decision at the end of that first night that why wouldn't we do a walking tour of the city and also
a food tour.
Food tour.
So we hadn't made those plans before, and I've got links to the tours in the show notes. Beach Travel Wine, episode 126. And don't forget on Instagram, Beach Travel Wine, if you go up to the top to the story highlights, all these, the views of Alhambra, the Mirador, all these places I've done little videos of, and it's one of the first ones up the top there, and just click on those to have a look. Now, our walking tour, we met Lorena at Plaza Nueva.
Yep.
And it was a little bit surreal because as I said, we'd been there 2016, and all of a sudden I got hit with this deja vu, this memory of being in this plaza with my son Cody and his wife Talia, and we were looking over the bar that we were sitting at, which was, it just all came back to me then when we arrived.
And we also recognised the
flamenco bar.
We went to.
So the walking tour was, it wasn't a long walking tour, as in it didn't cover a lot of area because it's all so close. But it took over 2 hours. And the thing we love about walking tours, and we proved it again, is we did walk around the day before and check things out and look at how nice it was. However, you don't know what you're looking at. There's one of the buildings in particular that we went to, which was the Corral del Carbon, which we'll talk about in a minute. Oh, yeah, it's old. It's not. Oh, yeah, that looks nice. Took a photo, snap. But then when we learned what it was, it just makes so much difference, doesn't it? Anyway. So we started in Plaza Nueva. There's probably a good 20 of us, I think. And she was great, Lorena.
She was brilliant.
She started off with a brief history, and of course you loved that, and we learned lots of stuff there.
And then she also told us that, which I didn't realise, the Nueva is the new plaza, but it's the oldest plaza in Granada. And we also found out that the Darro River flows underneath that plaza.
I think Isabella wanted to have a wider area, like the Catholics like to meet and chop heads off. And
I don't think that's true. But
have festivals and that sort of stuff.
They didn't chop their heads off.
No, they burnt them. That's right, sorry. Yeah, before they chopped their heads off.
I just found that interesting that they covered the river over it.
All right, so we headed off across the road, Gran Via, and we went through this big iron-wrought gate, and on one side is the Madrasa, which was the first uni.
Yes.
And that's right next to the cathedral and the royal chapel, right? So she told us a bit about the madrasa, and we went and had a look in there, and that was significant because
it was the first Arabic university, and it was full of what they call the Granada manuscripts. And what happened there was once Isabella and Ferdinand, her husband, once they took power, they decided that they were going to try and change the Muslims to be Christians.
So they thought they were all the Quran.
Yeah. So part of it was to do with the Quran, but there was also a cardinal who originally was the Archbishop of Toledo and pulled all the Granada.
5,000 books they took out. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but what they burnt them.
They did. And those particular books were basically pieces of art.
Yes, so the pages were made of silk and precious parchment paper. The writing was in gold leaf and things like that, and they had stunning drawings all through them. So they were pieces of art, and they got completely burnt in 1499.
And that was that was the next place we went to, which was the Plaza Bib Rambla.
Yeah.
So that's where they burnt the books, and that's also where, as part of the Inquisition, and the Inquisition was brought about by, what it was is that the Muslims that had converted to Catholicism,
they were making sure they were sticking to it.
Yeah, so what would happen is that it was they called it heresy, and if they could prove that they were practicing Muslim religion rather than the Catholic religion, they would basically kill them.
Yeah.
But they only killed them on the second time, because if they were caught the first time, they could offer up their
houses and
and any wealth they had. But if they got caught the second time, they didn't have any left. So that's what they did then.
Okay. So, she told us about the Royal Chapel, which we hadn't heard of, and she was quite surprised that we hadn't heard of, because she was saying that because it's where Isabella and Ferdinand are buried, and also their daughter
Joanna
and her husband Philip the Handsome and their son, who passed away as well. So you can go in, and it's really important to Spanish people, the Catholic king and queen. So
they're Catholic monarchs, as they call
monarchs,
them.
right? So she said we grow up in school and we learn all about them. So where they're buried and where their tombs are is really sacred. So you can't take photos in there. So they've got the big marble tombs on top, and then you can go down into the crypt, and there they have the lead coffins where their bodies are. Now, Philip the Handsome, he wasn't a fan of Spain.
He wasn't from Spain.
No, so he didn't like it really, and he decided before he died that when he passed away, he wanted his heart taken out and sent back to his home country of Belgium. So
the town of Bruges.
Yeah, Bruges. Yeah, that's a good movie, by the way.
Yeah.
So Philip the Handsome is in the lead coffin, but his heart is not. So that's interesting. Yes.
The Granada Cathedral was opened in 1704. Its whole name is the Metropolitan Cathedral Basilica of the Incarnation. Obviously, it's a Roman Catholic cathedral.
When they built it, they wanted it to be massive. They were like, we're going to do this.
Well, it was built on
a mosque, of course.
It was built on the top of the city's main mosque after the reconquest of Granada. One of the great attractions of the cathedral is its 15 chapels. Now, it's huge, and as Leanne just intimated then, one of the reasons why it was huge is that probably competing with Alhambra.
Alhambra.
Yep. Now,
they were going to build 2 towers, and they were going to be, I think, 80 metres high.
Yeah.
And then they were going to have like a spire on top, and they were going to be like over 100 metres, right?
Yep.
Well, the one they've got there now is 50-something, and there's only one.
57 metres.
Yes.
And they were going to be 81-metre towers.
They ran out of money.
Now, the cathedral took 181 years to build, and it was never finished.
You can see it from all over Granada, and yet we couldn't find it. Well, we could, but
a little bit like the Louvre.
It looked like it was shut, and we there's a door open, so we went into a door and like, it doesn't look as big on the inside.
Yeah, that's what I said to you. Well, I tell you what it is, it's 115 metres in length, and it's 67 metres in width.
Yeah.
Now the width is partially because of the 15 chapels that are in it,
and it's €7 to go in. Now we didn't go in because Lorena said that the crypt was a much better way to spend your money, and as impressive as the cathedral is on the outside, it doesn't live up to a lot of the other cathedrals in Spain on the inside. So that's just what she told us.
Yeah, so we didn't go. But the actual chapel that we did go into and paid the €7.
The royal one. They had like the clothes that Isabella wore, like the gowns, the tapestry was half a centimetre thick.
And they had other tapestries, and look, it was more or less like a museum as well.
Yeah.
I think it was worth going to see.
Yeah, I did too. I like that.
Now knowing that Philip the Handsome's heart was not there,
Yeah.
and it hasn't really taken anything away from it. It was still worth going to see. But it was like, it's a beautiful, beautiful architecture.
Yeah, on the outside. I've got some great photos of that as well. So then we moved on to the old silk market. Do you want to tell us what that was called?
Alca Sierra.
That'll do.
It's ALCAICERIA.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's the old silk market.
So now it's basically markets full of, once again, the Arabic clothing and the beautiful little glass lights, the lamps hanging, and all the spices,
tiles,
and a lot of Granada souvenirs, architecture on pillows and bags and fridge magnets, all that sort of stuff. And interestingly, our guide told us, she said, look, or if you really want a genuine souvenir from Granada, you're not going to find it in any of these shops. As nice as this stuff is, you want to buy it, go ahead, but this is all from Morocco. So I asked her what was a genuine Granadan souvenir, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like carving, and they make them into little boxes with the decoration on top. And she said, if I see one on our walk, I'll show you, which she did. And, of course, I went and bought it, a gorgeous little box. So, yeah, so we walked through the market.
And those markets, because of the silk and basically the wares that they sold back in the day, and then we're talking about the 12th and 13th century, so it was the Nasrid era. Because the products were so expensive, they kept the aisleway very, very narrow, so that if someone did steal, it made it very hard for them to get away. That particular, the original
market. It was hard
market,
just to walk through. You got some nice photos of that too.
But it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but
Do you know
that actually burnt down in 1843. And they actually widened those
streets so people could get out.
Because,
But do you know what I like about those market areas in the streets that you walk through? Are those places, if you pick up something, the shop owner, the shopkeeper, the staff are hassling the crap out of you about how much it is and that sort of thing. They absolutely leave you alone.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy that. So you feel free to walk in, go around, touch something, ask questions. They are not going to try and sell you stuff and annoy you. I really thought that was really good. I appreciated that. Normally those sort of markets there come in.
They're trying to terrorise. They're actually terrorising you. But there was none of that at all in Granada.
All right, we need to keep moving. Next, after the silk markets, we went to the Corral del Carbon. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. We saw this building sort of not far from our accommodation, and had like one of the Moorish arches and the decoration, a little bit like the Alhambra. And we went inside and had like ancient grapevines sort of growing around, and these columns. It's like a courtyard inside, and got some photos of that. Thought, oh, this is pretty cool. No idea what it was. And then so we went there on our walking tour, and what it was originally was a grain store. So the merchants would bring their grains into this area,
which they would probably be weighed and then taxed on that.
Yes. And then they had accommodation up the top
for those same merchants.
And then they would go into the city we were just talking about and sell their grains there.
Yeah. At the Alcaceria.
Yeah. Now, Lyle, what sort of timing was this, the grain store? Like, when was that built?
This is 12th, 13th century again.
Okay, so all the columns around, she said to us,
don't touch
Lorena,
them.
do not touch them. Like, we'll be in big trouble, because they are original. The actual columns holding up that building have had nothing done to them. They're 100% original. So that was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. From there, we went out to the statue of Isabella and Christopher Columbus. So from there, we went back to the Albacete.
Correct.
And that's where we learned about the
nuns
that we'd already seen, and we felt pretty proud of ourselves that we'd already been in there. We went to. We also found out about the Carmens, or a Carmen is a house.
Yeah. Well, Carmen comes from the Arabic. Carmenes comes from the Arab word "carm," which means vine, and traditionally they used to have a grapevine
shading the
entrance to the.
So there was
house.
There was one time where there were 60,000 people in the Albacete,
Yeah.
And then when the Catholics took over.
Well, what it was that when the Muslims finally surrendered to the Catholics, basically the king at the time had certain stipulations of how he would surrender. Right, I won't go through those, but part of it was the Muslims would be able to have religious freedom and follow their culture.
Yes.
That lasted for about 9 years.
Yes.
Now, what happened then is the descendants of the original Muslims that converted, they are called the Moriscos. There was 2 rebellions because they were just treated so badly for so long. Anyway, eventually those Moriscos moved out of the Albaycin, which is what we're talking about.
The area.
And that's when it went from 60,000 people to 5,000.
Right.
Then the Christians then moved in.
Yes.
And they
combined houses.
They combined houses to make bigger houses.
Made the streets bigger so they could get the materials up to build these houses.
And those houses are now called Carmenes.
Yes, right. So, and one is they're owned by quite rich people, or they're been held in a family for a long time, and one of them is owned by the King of Qatar, apparently.
Yeah. So, and apparently on the others, like all these walls, you don't see any.
No, you can't see into the Carmens. That's the thing.
You can't see into them.
No.
And one of the reasons is that
so when you walk,
but it goes back to the Muslim times that it was actually a sin to display your wealth.
Yes,
right.
You had to be humble.
Same as Alhambra.
Yeah.
That's all you can't see in.
No.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll tell them about that in the next podcast.
Yeah.
So these houses are white, but you can't really see. You can see the roofs and you can see the trees, but you've got the big white walls around them.
So I'd imagine if you did a helicopter tour over that, it'd be pretty unbelievable.
Pretty spectacular. So we saw the Carmenes, and we went to another Mirador. Now this one isn't as high up as the St. Nicholas one.
Yeah, and it's the Mirador Placeta de Cavalles.
Yes, it is. Well done. I'll take your word for that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the views. Once again, the views out to the Alhambra were just stunning. And there were probably 4 people in the whole plaza. And one of those people was a guy just sitting there playing the guitar. There's a lot of music around the streets of Granada. People just pull up with their guitars and they start singing. It's like everywhere you go, there's someone.
And generally they've got a hat in front of them.
Yeah, but this guy didn't. This guy did not have anything. He just wanders around playing. So it's nice because it adds atmosphere.
That's one of the really strong memories I have of the last time we went to Granada. Was walking down. It was early morning and there was no one else around, and there was this guy sitting on a step playing the guitar, and it was actually quite haunting.
So that was the end of our tour. Our tour finished there. But do you want to tell the story before we move on of how the Moorish kingdom fell?
Okay. Well, part of the reason the Moorish kingdom fell was,
just take in mind that we're hearing this story. It's a love story. It's a story of loss. It's a story of a generation of people losing their homes. It's a big story that we're hearing. And in the background is Alhambra, where the whole story sort of began. Yes?
Yeah. Basically, there was one of the emirs. It was a guy by the name of Hassan. And his legitimate son was a guy by the name of Boabdil. Hassan fell in love with a Christian slave.
Right.
Now, his wife, Axis.
And the Christian slave fell in love with him.
Yes, correct.
So they were in love.
They actually had 2 children together.
Yes. So they got married.
So Hassan then basically declared that his Christian wife's sons would be the heir to the throne.
Yes. Of all of Alhambra.
Boabdil, mother.
Granada, yes.
Well, she was
the original wife.
The original wife wasn't real happy with that.
No.
So after a period of time, she encouraged Boabdil to go up against his father.
Yeah.
The mother had a lot of connections within this community.
Yeah, so she got a lot of support.
And so basically,
he took over the leadership.
Now, Boabdil was the emir to surrender
Granada
to the Catholics.
Yes. But he thought, I imagine, they were going to lose it anyway. So he negotiated, as you mentioned before, all these terms, which Isabella agreed to.
Yeah, and for about 7 years actually stuck by.
Right. And so, but what he did is he then
Moved back to...
he went back to Morocco.
North Africa.
And apparently where he was buried is nobody even cares. Everyone thought he was pretty, the Moroccans thought he was weak, and his own mother. Have you got the quote that she said when
she said, "Cry like a woman when you should have protected like a man," and then threw her shoes at him, which apparently in Arabic cultures
pretty
bad. The worst thing you can do.
So that was the demise of.
So she was a bit of a bitch. Yeah. Basically.
So the love story turned out to be a disaster for all the Moors and win for the Catholics.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I would assume that because it was basically what they did is they had a siege.
Yes.
And they were getting pushed back further and further and further.
So he thought it's the only way out.
And he thought, well, rather than fight them and have everybody die, he'd surrender it.
That was our walking tour. Our history lesson was very cool. We loved every bit of it, didn't we?
Sure.
But before we left that day, we decided we were going to do a food tour.
Correct.
A food and tapas tour. So now this was a lot of fun. We met our guide, Juan Miguel, at 7:30, and I thought, that can't be our guide because I knew the guy.
Blonde-haired, blue eyes.
Well, I knew his name was Juan Miguel, and I'm like, that doesn't look like a Juan Miguel. But he is, and he is Spanish. He was born in Spain. He's got an English accent because his parents are both musicians with the Spain Symphony Orchestra. So,
correct.
So he spent his whole life in Spain. Now, there was you and I, and there was Veronica from Belgium, and I promised I'd give the girls from Sweden a big shout out. There was a group of one English girl, two American ladies that all live in Stockholm, and their names are Jennifer, Rachel, and Sophie, and they were
well done, Leonette.
They were so much fun. Yeah. They were great. So we started our tour. We were going to 4 places, and of course, there's always a bonus, and we started with the bonus, didn't we? And I was so happy because it was at a hamon shop. We learned all about the black hoofed hamon and the white hoofed hamon, and we got to cut the hamon and we got to eat hamon and the most delicious cheese in the world, didn't we?
Yeah, so that was at Casa Copera. Lopera? Yeah. It is, sorry, Lopera. And the guy that was our instructor was Miguel. He's obviously...
He thought he was a comedian.
Yeah, he thought he was very
They got
funny.
like a double act, him and his wife.
Yeah, actually. And they were quite... Look, that was good. They were good. They were really good, yeah. And
it was a nice way to start. It was a small shop. It was very intimate, and he let all of us have a go at carving the hamon. And it was
cheap hamon.
The cheap one he did too. From there we went to Rosiario Varela. It sounds like a name. It's actually 2 streets. One's Rosiario and the other one's Varela, and it's on the corner. It's that simple. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you? And we had the most interesting cold tomato soup, not gazpacho that everyone talks about.
He did say it's sort of like a cousin.
It is. It's salmorejo. Yeah. And he actually, Juan Miguel actually gave us the recipe for this. It's got 4 ingredients in it. Okay. Yep. So tomato.
Yep.
Garlic.
Yep.
Olive oil.
Yep.
And then there was something that made it all creamy. And we were all trying to guess what it was. Was it milk? Was it because a lot of them have almonds in them? But no, this had 1-day-old stale bread.
Correct.
And it sounds like it'd be chunky. It wasn't. It was smooth as. And on top they had a little bit of bacon and a little bit of cheese.
Boiled egg.
Oh yeah, boiled egg. That was really nice. So we had that there. Now he recommended the vermouth here. We originally went with a white wine, but then we decided we'd try the vermouth, and it was really good.
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a sook when it comes to vermouth or anything like that.
So we had that authentic sort of tapa, and then we had a modern one, which was like a beef tartare. It was this thin slice of beef. I don't even know what was on it, and we rolled it up. And
they call it lomo bajo. Now, bajo means
under, so it's the back.
Yeah, so it's a back leg.
Yeah. And then we rolled that in salt, and that was really nice.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
that took a little while because I had new staff, but the interior of that place was gorgeous as well. Like I should say about the hamon shop, exactly what you think a Spanish deli would be, full of cheese and hamon. And this it looked like it could have been an old house. It had little rooms and gorgeous tapestry furniture and stuff. It's worth going to check out. I'm going to put a list of all these in the show notes, so if you want to go and have a look at them, you can. Then we went to La Equinita de Javi, see, where we had white wine. the wine on this tour was amazing as well.
The
as
wine
food.
was good.
Yeah,
the wine
yeah.
was good.
This was like outdoors on a corner in a little park plaza area, wasn't it?
Yep.
We had the bacalao.
Yep.
So we had the fried bacalao, the eggplant, which was fried as well, or battered, I should say, and then cuttlefish.
Yep.
And croquettes. And I love the croquettes. Like everyone talks about them, and I think I must have had one, and I thought it was like just crumb potato with a bit of ham. But this one was really nice, and we had some yesterday, and they were really nice too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Croquettes.
I'm
converted.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, Juan Miguel said that the Japanese stole the batter idea from Spain and took it back to Japan and turned it into tempura. So, yeah, a couple more glasses of white wine there, and we then moved on. I think we did more walking in the food tour than we did in the walking tour. We walked a lot in between places. It was good.
Which is probably a good thing.
But the next one, the fourth one that we went to, which I think was my favourite because it felt so local, so Spanish. Everyone in there seemed to be locals to me. And that was called La Trastienda. Now, that means behind the shop.
Correct.
Yeah. So you basically have a counter of a shop which has all the deli stuff, the tomatoes and the jamon and the cheeses. It's and pork sausages and things, right? And then you basically go around behind the counter through a little doorway, duck your head, and there's this room at the back which has got a low ceiling, and there's just so much noise because the Spanish speak very quickly and over top of each other to be heard. And that was very atmospheric, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was great. And, and I think what Juan Miguel said, that anything you can buy in the restaurant, you can buy to take away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's no kitchen though. It's not a restaurant. They they just sort of cut it all up on the front counter and bring it back to you. So we had pork sausage and we had a red wine here.
Yes, and it was a blend between of Tempranillo and Syrah, which is in Australian is Shiraz.
It was divine.
And the wine was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I've written down here 15 out of 10. So that was really good. And, the pork sausage was actually really nice.
That was divine. And then they brought out a plate of tomato. Now, you've never tasted tomatoes like this. And you saw them on the front counter. I actually got a picture of those, like it's part of the whole picture of the shop. They're just giant, gorgeous.
In olive oil.
Yeah, divine, weren't they? We're all fighting over the tomato. And then we finished with another little place, which was basically 50 metres from our hotel.
Yep.
And we hadn't seen it before, called La Vinoteca. And from there we went in, and another beautiful decoration, just really nice fit outs and stuff. It was a bit quieter. We sort of went to the back of the restaurant and or the bar, and
it was a bit bigger.
Yeah, that's true. And we had some cava.
Yes, we had
cava. For those who don't know, is
Spanish champagne.
Spanish champagne. I really liked the cava. I thought it was great.
Yes, you did say to me a couple of days later how much you enjoyed the cava.
And with that, we had
the best cheesecake in the world. We had Spanish cheesecake.
Yeah, and by this time, like by probably the one we're behind the shop, we're all getting a bit happy, friendly, enjoying ourselves. There's one of the girls left early, Sophie. She was the driver the next day, so she's like, "No, I'm done, thank you." And so Rachel and Jennifer partied on a bit more, and they got funnier and funnier. So
and Veronica. Yeah,
I was just going to say, really, they have really interesting lives. Veronica travels a lot on her own, and she's Belgian, but she's a French teacher, and she likes to, like, every couple of weeks go somewhere else because she can. It's a couple of hours away, and then she always does food tours because then you get out and talk to people and learn about the local food. So that was a lot of fun. So that was the end of the night, and those three girls decided they were going to go and have a nightcap, and they asked Juan Miguel where they should go, and I just said, no, I'm done. I just can't. And so we just went round the corner to where we were staying, and right across the road, that there was a little place.
Well, can I just explain that? As Leanne said, she's done, but then as we get to the front door of the hotel, she says, "Oh,
No, I did
Do you
not.
want a nightcap?
You're a liar.
You did.
You said I would like just one more. Do you not put that on me? I was not going.
Go
You
on.
little fibber.
Oh, that's
So-
not what you normally call me.
Yeah, I know, right? So we sit down there to have a drink, and the next thing you know, the three girls come up behind us, and they're mad because they think we've dumped them and didn't want to hang out with them because we wanted to go home. And here we are sitting having a drink, but we did explain. We got to our hotel door and it was right there, and we thought, why not? So we had another drink with them. They ordered more food.
I don't think they ate it though.
No, I don't think we did eat it. I can't even remember.
No, well, it was a tapas spot, so they brought out tapas.
Oh, okay. I couldn't eat another thing. So anyway, we invited ourselves to visit them where they were staying the next day. And
that was in La Herradura.
Yeah.
For a boat trip.
Yeah, for a boat trip. But I did message and say, we're just not up for it. But thank you anyway. We had a great night because of them and all the people on it and the guide one.
Great people.
It was great. So that was our time in Granada, and we loved it, and we certainly recommend visiting. Episode 127, we'll be back with all about Alhambra, and you won't want to miss that one as well. Have you got anything you want to add?
Where was your favourite place to have a glass of wine?
My favourite place to have a glass of wine was probably there was a cafe in the Albacete where we sat, or bar, and I had a Tinto de Verano, just sort of, and we got the paella tapa there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was really good.
Yeah, I really liked that. What about you?
Oh, there was one.
Although the tour, I liked all the wine on the tour. That was much better wine than what we were having. So
yeah, probably I enjoyed that.
The red.
Yeah, the red. So that was at the second last place.
Yeah, the behind the shop one.
Yeah, La Trastienda. Yeah.
All right. Well, that has been a lot to get through. So thank you if you've listened this far. Don't forget to check out beachtravelwine.com, episode 126. The notes that go with this are there. There'll be links to tours and stuff, but lots of photos of where we've been and what we did as well. Or if you want to see the videos as we were going on around the city, Beach Travel Wine at Instagram, and up the top, go and look at the Granada story highlights, and have a look there. And we will see you next time. So it's hasta luego from me.
Adios.